Welcome in to another new AMP podcast. My name is Ben Dubose, your host, and I'm the news editor with AMP Publications, where I create content for both Coatings Pro Magazine and Materials Performance Magazine. Today, we're happy to be joined by Sam Scaturro, president of New Jersey-based Alpine Painting and Sandblasting Contractors. In that role, Sam oversees operations, safety, and quality management, and he works within Alpine's industrial painting business, mostly with concrete and steel structures. Sam, thanks for taking the time, and let's start with your personal biography. Can you walk us through your history in the business?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks, Ben, for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and share some information with the AMP membership who's listening on. So to give you a bit of background on my biography and history of the business, I have been doing this since I was 15 years old, so that's a while. We came out of college working full-time for the business. In fact, I think even the last year or two of college, I was working pretty close to full-time. I knew I was really going to enjoy the business, so I went to college and graduated with a civil engineering degree to help support, my ability to help the business. With that, I've done just about everything I ask any one of my employees to do. I started by cleaning paint buckets in the field and working my way up, doing tasks in the office. I worked as a project manager for a period of time. I was a safety manager for the company for a period of time. I oversaw quality for a long period of time and still in many ways do, even though I have a full-time quality manager and full-time safety manager now. But, have really done every piece of the business, which really has helped me a lot in being able to run and oversee things and have my employees respect, my ability to lead them.
So tell us a little more about Alpine, because I know there's a unique family story and lineage there. Can you take us through the process of buying the business from your dad and uncle and tell us a bit more about how it's transformed in the years since then?
Sure. So, Alpine was formed by my dad and uncle in 1975. They started painting, just the two of them, worked their way up to have crews out in the field, then started to work out of the office and go out and sell work and have others be performing the work. So when I came into the business, it was, fully operating business. I was in college, my last 2 years of college, and, started working my way up. Once my brothers came in, we started to have higher and more important positions in the company. And, it was time for us to start talking to my dad and my uncle about buying the business. I'm not going to say that process was easy. I do encourage people to give that a lot of thought, especially with family. There are a lot of personal feelings that have to go into a good approach with how that all goes down. For us, we ended up with our accountant. Our company accountant was a great mediator to take us through the process, because everybody in that process is looking for something a little bit different, and you need somebody to bring everybody together. I think that from my perspective and my brother's perspective, it was an incredible thing. I am so happy that we purchased the business from my dad and my uncle. I think they're both pretty happy with how it went because, they trusted us with the business and, to pay them back. It's not easy to buy a company. You can't just go to the bank and get the money. So they put a lot of trust in us to be able to buy the company from them, and that's worked out extremely well. So I think as a family transition, this one was a great one, and I'd be happy to share with anybody who has any questions or is going through that, some ideas to help them in their process as well.
What exactly is Alpine's niche in the industry? Can you shed some light on who your typical clients are and what are their general needs or desires? What are they looking for from a contractor?
Yeah, so we have 5 divisions of the company. We have the first division was our commercial painting division. Then we moved into industrial painting. The third division we created for the company was a shop. We got a big enough facility to start blasting and painting things in our shop. That could be anything from someone's radiator in their house all the way up to things that go into nuclear power plants and heavy construction equipment. We also have a flooring division or floor coatings division. So we apply, polyurethane, polyaspartic epoxies, things like that. And the last and most recent division that we created was a welding division. So we have several crews that go out and weld every day. And what makes sense for us is that we have all these divisions that are complementary of each other. So even though we're going out and welding things in a structure, all that steel needs to be painted. So that works out, well for us. And, my guess is our next division is probably going to be, something else that helps support it, like, passive fire protection or something like that. Our typical clients are generally clients who are willing to pay more initially to get a better value. So Alpine works very hard to train its employees to a very high degree, which may come as a bigger initial investment for a client. But what ends up happening is the lifespan of what we provide to them, the customer service, what they get, and the process of just dealing with good people, having a good experience, they're usually willing to pay more to get more. And that's, pretty typical for us.
What is the dialogue when you're trying to get someone to buy in on that concept, to invest proactively so that even if there's a higher upfront cost, you're going to make that back and then some later? Are there any challenges when you're doing that? Or as you were saying, it's in a situation where your clients are already pretty aware that they're willing to go down that road before they even engage with you all in dialogue?
Yeah, so Ben, that depends on the client. If we have clients that we've been working with for a while, they are pretty in tune to that, and it's not really a hard discussion at all. But there are clients who are relatively new that we, haven't worked with in the past. And,
Right.
our typical discussion with them is, we qualify them ahead of time to make sure that, what they're looking for is what we provide. Sometimes it's okay for us to say, I just don't think that, we're a great fit for you. I think that you're looking for something different. That's completely fair. And that's, we'll find that out. And we try to do it early on in the process as well. But yeah, is it a hard process? We're going in and we're telling them that, you're going to have a lower overall cost of ownership with this particular project. So we're going to give you something that it's going to cost this much, but it's going to cost you this much over a period of whatever this lifespan is for what we're providing versus what others are going to provide for you. That's the typical sales approach. We're also, letting them know that, you're getting a lot of understanding and knowledge when you come to us. I have lots of certifications, lots of our employees have lots of certifications, many of them provided by AMP. And that helps that sales process as well. It gives credibility to what it is that we're selling and what we're telling them. But just the knowledge that we bring to the table, people believe in that. And, it's like if anyone was going out to buy something, some people feel good about buying that more expensive product up front because they feel like they're going to get that better value. And that's what it is working with Alpine.
And I mentioned earlier, you guys are based in New Jersey, but in terms of your clients, are you regional, national? What's your work scope?
Yeah, so I would say largely we're looking for work within 1 to 2 hours of our location in northern New Jersey.
Okay.
However, we do work all over the country. For certain clients, we've traveled, we flew to about 40 or 50 different locations for one client all over the world to do about 9 hours worth of work at each location. If it's the right client and it's the right job, then we'll do that. We've gone up and down the East Coast pretty regularly. It really just depends on the job. It depends on the amount of time that we're away. Most of our guys are really company people that work for the business, and they like to go home to their families at the end of the day. So travel isn't a huge part of our business, although it's becoming more and more as, needs are out there. So we're actually actively trying to find people that are willing to travel.
All right, so let's talk more about your clients in the marketplace. Are there any trends you're seeing in 2024, or I suppose we can do this forward looking as well? Are there any trends when it comes to the needs or desires that you hear from the clients you have and the people that you're talking to about potential jobs?
So, I think that safety is a big trend. Safety's always been important, right? But I
Right.
think it's becoming more important to take people out of harm's way. And what I mean by that is have robotics and equipment be able to do things that people don't have to do anymore. So I'll give you a good example of that. We recently bought a drone to power wash with. So we no longer have to send people up on suspended scaffold. We no longer have to send, and it's not for every job, but we no longer have to have people on lifts going and doing this work and have the risk of the power washing lance, come in front of them if they were to slip and fall and, possibly cut or injure themselves. We have this technology to be able to do that. Even sandblasting technology, we have a lot of robotic sandblasting equipment. I think the industry is making leaps and bounds into robotic spraying equipment. We're not ready to make that investment yet because I don't think it's there quite yet. But these types of situations, I think, is going to be more and more important in the future. I think longer lasting technologies are going to continue to become more and more important. We do a lot of linings for water, for wastewater, for chemical processing. And I think having these systems last longer so that these structures don't have to be taken out of service as often, I think is really important. I think the environment and sustainability is also a huge trend. We're actually, consistently changing our marketing on, how sustainable we are as a company and what kind of recycling technologies do we do and how we're trying to be, smarter and better about the energy usage that we utilize for the work that we're doing. Waste minimization, things like that. I think that those are probably the biggest trends that we've been seeing.
Yeah, to circle back to something you said a few minutes ago, you mentioned wanting to find more people that were willing to travel. So with that in mind, I can't help but think about the workforce development crisis, which obviously affects contractors really across the entire coatings value chain. What are some of the strategies that Alpine has when it comes to, keeping workers happy or luring new workers? And are there any keys that you all see when it comes to addressing any potential shortfall in the future when it comes to workers?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben, and probably one of the things that we focus the most on. So every year we have a meeting internally to set our goals for the next year. And the majority of our goals are around this exact topic. We'll start with the first one about keeping existing workers happy. Costs are increasing like crazy for individuals. Making sure that they can continue to afford, to live, to come to work every day, to provide for their families, that's really important. So we have to keep finding ways to either, transfer those costs into the jobs and still get them, with costs rising so much, labor costs rising, material costs rising, equipment costs rising, and still be able to get these jobs and keep our employees happy. So that's something that we pay really close attention to. Things outside of just pay, we have a lot of company events where we, enjoy each other. We not just a holiday party every year, but we have summer parties. We're taking our employees go-karting soon. We go on fishing trips. We play paintball. We do a lot of fun activities to keep people engaged and enjoying each other's company. Culture is a huge part of our business. Making people feel safe, I think is critically important. So staying on top of the training that we're doing with everybody and making sure that they feel comfortable where they are, that they're going to go home, to their families healthy every day. I think that's really important. And then, craft worker training, I think is probably one of the most important things that's become evident recently. We did an interesting survey with our company when we had all of our people and we were going over our goals last year. And it was, what's the biggest thing? We gave this to the field personnel. What's the single biggest thing that could make the biggest impact into our business? And it was interesting how the responses came in. So all of our, foremen and our employees who have been here for an extended period of time said, find me people that are, better trained, that are going to be better employees for us. And all of the newer employees that had, started with us, let's just say within the last year, were like, I'd love to have more direction and more training from, the field staff and a little bit more respect and a little bit more patience. So what does that go to? That goes straight to training, and how important training is and how critical that is to the future of our business. So that's what we're putting a lot of emphasis in right now is how we can have the best training possible to keep those employees.
Well, and it's interesting because you've mentioned AMP a few times. Obviously, you've been a very active member leader over the years, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But in terms of ways that AMP can potentially help your business, I think that craft worker training is a big one. Is that an example of the type of issue that's not just to be solved at a company level, but at a broader industry or association level? To me, that's a perfect example, right, of the type of issue where AMP can not only help you on an individual level, but your overall business as well.
Yeah. So as far as AMP is concerned, I think that's, as far as education and training, those are the two biggest impacts AMP has on our business. With training particularly, there are a lot of training courses that we put our employees through. So number one, we are a QP1, a QP2, a QP8, a QP9, and a QS1 contractor. So that's 5 QPs that we hold, company accreditations. And, in order to keep all those, which just so you know, we didn't do that, necessarily to find work. We did that because we wanted to be a better company. And I feel like it truly has made us a better company, which has then in turn turned into more work. And to be honest, we don't actually use those accreditations so much to go out and get jobs that we weren't otherwise qualified for. We go out and sell those certifications to owners to say, this is why you should use us, which is, I guess, a bit different than most people do. As far as other certifications go and training, a lot of that goes along with the accreditations. So, we're training blasters, we're training coating applicators, we're training, concrete coating applicators. We just had a course in our facility where we ran 13 of our own employees through concrete coatings inspector course. And, that's the kind of stuff that we invest in regularly. We also hold a lot of public classes at our facility as well. So we have a lot of CIP, so coating inspector program courses that happen at our facility. We have a lot of coating application specialists, so CAS workers that work for our company, at all different levels. Even concrete CAS workers that work for our company. A lot of this is to comply with those accreditations, but more so it's about training our people to be the best that they can be and be the best that they need to be for our customers to keep our customers happy.
Let's talk about you and your specific involvement at an association level, because I know it goes on for quite a long time, and you've been a huge asset to our association over the years. Hopefully the association has helped you as well. Looking through your licenses and certifications, I believe you've been a NACE Level 3 Certified Coatings Inspector, an SSPC Concrete Coatings Inspector, CCI, SSPC Protected Coating Specialist, PCS, SSPC Quality Control Supervisor. Those are just a few of your licenses and certifications over the years. You've held a number of positions in member leadership, most notably as chairman of the AMP board from mid 2022 to 2023, correct?
Yeah, it was the year of 2022. Yes. That's
Right.
when I was the chairman of the board. Yep.
So tell us about the value of those, just your journey within the associations over the 20 or so years that you've been in the business. And also, if you could, just share a few highlights from that time. Specifically, I would think it's your time as chairman of the board that would be most influential. What do you see as some of the highlights from that tenure and I guess your journey within both AMP and the legacy associations?
Sure. So, oh boy, my journey started back a long way ago.
Right,
In
right.
fact, I think I was actually a NACE member first when I was going for my CIP certification originally. Then shortly after that, I believe I joined SSPC and then started attending a lot of the conferences with SSPC. My very first conference, Terry Sowers, who still works for the organization, I went to her and said, how can I get more involved? And she put me on a committee immediately. Shortly after that, I was the chair of that committee. And it's funny because I had to renew my PCS or chairman of the task group. I guess it was a task group at the time. I had to renew my PCS, and it's funny because I'm not sure how long ago it was that the PCS renewal form was created, but that was something that our task group did, and that I created the original document that we're still using to renew to this day. So, it's kind of cool how you see things that you've done and contributed towards help the industry, help the association. I've been part of lots of standards developments. I've been, members on those committees. I've been chairs of those committees. That's been extremely rewarding. I've been involved in the association as, boy, I can't even remember all the different things, but a lot of those committees led me up to my time on the board. So I started on the SSPC board as a member of the board, worked my way up to an officer of the board right around the time when the two organizations were merging. So Gary Manis, the president of the board at the time, asked me to be the lead for the merger team on the SSPC side. I worked with Tim Bieri, who is the lead of the merger team on the NACE side, and we worked together with an incredible group of people to form AMP. That was probably the single most rewarding thing I've done in my career. So it wasn't just being on the board that was rewarding or being the chairman of the board after AMP was formed. It was doing something that I think was extremely important to our industry, to bring these two organizations together, to have an organization that can do that much more for the industry than the two individual ones could do apart. Yeah, and then shortly after that, AMP was formed. I was the second chairman of the board for AMP, and following Tim Bieri, and that was incredibly rewarding as well. What do I remember most about it, and what was most fulfilling? It was being in front of people. It was getting out there. It was, talking to them. In my case, it was mostly surrounding the merger. So it was spent a lot of time talking about the merger. What can we do? How can we be better? Inspiring them to want to get on board with this whole idea and trying to make it the best that it could be. That, I think, was the most rewarding. I'm excited that the organization is now moving on to the next generation of leadership. I believe I was maybe one of the last on the board that was part of that initial merger of the two organizations. So now it's, new elected leaders that are, re-envisioning it. Right now they're working on, sort of generation 2 of the governance. When we move the governance together to form AMP, that governance was a lot because, there was a history before and we needed to incorporate a lot of people. And now they're moving towards a much more streamlined form of governance, which I think is great. So, those were the highlights for me. I'm really excited to see, what has been accomplished over the years and where it's going to continue to move in the future. And, I will continue to be involved in that in different ways and different aspects for many years to come.
As we wrap up now with Sam Scaturro, president of Alpine Painting and Sandblasting Contractors, you mentioned being in front of people in forward-facing roles. I know one time this year that you were quite visibly out in front of people was at the AMP 2024 conference in New Orleans, where obviously you're active on a number of fronts. But I know one thing that drew you and your company a lot of recognition was the Coatings Pro Contractor Awards. You guys won 4 times, including 3 first place awards, I believe. What was that like, and what does that type of recognition mean for you and your business? How does that potentially help you when you're going out and talking to clients, as you were saying earlier, about the job that you're capable of performing and the types of projects and environments that you're capable of handling?
Yeah, so first off, it's humbling to win that many awards, and especially 3 out of the 4 of them being first place. So very, very thankful to Coatings Pro for recognizing us in that way. But yeah, I mean, we submit for awards quite often. And the reason why is because we have, someone comes into our conference room, we have a whole wall of awards hanging there from over the years from different organizations that we're part of for why we won for, a particular project or for our safety record or for our quality program or whatever it may be. And that's impressive to people. That helps us sell business. That helps us, become a little bit more recognizable and get our name out there. So for all those reasons, I think awards are really important, and I'm excited that AMP continues to push the envelope with the awards programs. In fact, I just sent an email to the chairperson of the program committee for awards for AMP to give a couple other suggestions for how we can make it even better for next year at next year's conference. So I'm excited to still participate in any way I can to continue to push the envelope and help make things better. But yeah, no, we're very appreciative of those awards.
Yeah, and we're appreciative for you as well for everything you've done over the years, both from an association standpoint and for us here at Coding Pro. You've been a real resource for us as well. And so we definitely appreciate you and want to use this as an opportunity to say thanks again for everything you've done. Sam, for anybody listening that wants to learn more about you or your company, or perhaps wants to get in touch, what's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, so to find more information about the company, it would be www.alpinepainting.com. If they want to get in touch with me, it's pretty easy, sam@alpinepainting.com. Feel free to email me if you have any questions or whatever. But, if I could give, maybe one piece of advice to somebody who's listening, especially if it's somebody that's, either earlier in their career or isn't as involved in the industry right now, is to get involved. That's been, I'd say the most important thing of my career is my involvement, and, volunteering for these things brings back a lot of rewards and just a lot of enjoyment while you're, working in your career and while you're trying to become better. And I can't say enough about that. So I hope that this encourages some people to get maybe a little bit more involved, and it doesn't require you to be chairman of the board to do it. But, just saying yes when somebody asks, hey, can you help out with this? I think you'll find it a great experience. So thanks, Ben.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. All right, that will do it for today. For Sam Scaturro, I'm Ben Dubose, news editor with the AMP Publications team. If you want more resources from our end at AMP or the member magazines, you can check out our websites at ampp.org for the association, amp.org, codingspromag.com for Codings Pro Magazine, and materialsperformance.com for Materials Performance Magazine. With those plugs complete, we will end things here. Thanks as always for listening, and please come back soon for another new episode.